The massive space station that served as the Galactic Council's central hub spun slowly against the backdrop of countless stars. Inside, thousands of different alien species went about their daily routines, each adding their own unique touches to the carefully maintained peace that had lasted for over 300 years. At his monitoring station, Officer Reed of the Council's Defense Force watched the usual traffic of ships coming and going. His 4 eyes blinked in their typical pattern as he sipped his morning drink. The job was mostly quiet, reviewing energy signatures, checking flight paths, and occasionally helping lost traders find their proper docking bays. The alert came without warning. First, just a small blip on the edge of his screen, but then his entire console lit up with warning lights. Reed's upper eyes widened while his lower ones narrowed, a sign of extreme stress in his species. The energy readings were unlike anything he had seen before. "Control, this is Monitor Station 7, he called out, his translator working overtime to keep his voice steady. "We have an unknown vessel entering Council space. Energy signature is. This can't be right." His supervisor, Controller Mech, floated over on her gravity pad. Her crystalline form sparkled under the station's lights as she examined the readings. "Report," she commanded. "The ship is small, about the size of a standard patrol vessel," Reed explained. "But its power output is matching that of our largest dreadnoughts, and the energy pattern, it's completely unknown to our databases." The news spread through the station like a wave. Within minutes, the Council's emergency chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of worlds. Their voices merged into a chaos of different languages as their translators struggled to keep up. Meanwhile, aboard the HMS Thunder, Admiral Jack Gray stood on his bridge, watching the massive space station grow larger on their main screen. The ship's distress beacon detector was still pinging, showing the signal they had followed through uncharted space. "Status report," Gray ordered, his voice calm despite the tension in the air. "Sir, we're picking up thousands of artificial signatures around that station," his sensor officer reported. "Different designs, different energy patterns. Nothing matches anything we've seen before." Gray nodded, running a hand through his gray hair. 20 years of service in the Earth Defense Force hadn't prepared him for this moment. "Are we still getting that distress signal?" "Yes, sir. It's coming from somewhere beyond the station." The Thunder was humanity's newest warship, built to protect Earth's growing colonies. Its dark hull was covered in stealth plating that absorbed sensor scans. Banks of point defense turrets remained hidden under armored panels. The ship's fusion drive pushed it forward with incredible power, while its quantum shield stood ready to defend against any threat. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're getting something. Looks like transmission attempts, but our systems can't make sense of them." Gray straightened his uniform. "Keep working on it, and power up the universal translator. The eggheads back home said it should be able to handle any language based on mathematics or physics." Outside the ship, the Council's diplomatic fleet was already moving to intercept. Their silver ships formed a careful pattern around the Thunder, their own weapons safely powered down as per first contact protocols. That's when everything went wrong. The Thunder's fusion drive began its standard cooling cycle. Excess plasma vented from special ports along the ship's hull, creating a spectacular light show. To the Council ships, it looked exactly like weapon ports powering up for combat. Panic erupted across all channels. The Council ships scattered like startled fish, their crews having never seen anything like the Thunder's advanced systems. Emergency alerts blared across the station as defense platforms activated automatically. Gray watched the chaos with growing concern. "All hands to battle stations," he ordered calmly. "But do not, I repeat, do not power weapons. Shields only." The Thunder's quantum shields hummed to life, creating a barely visible bubble around the ship. The Council's sensor operators watched in amazement as their scans simply slid off the human vessel's defenses, unable to penetrate its mysterious technology. In the Council chamber, the representatives were in an uproar. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for evacuation of the entire sector. A few wiser ones urged caution and proper observation. No one knew it yet, but this moment would change the galaxy forever. Humanity had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same. The Council's emergency alarms continued to blare throughout the massive space station. Security teams rushed through curved hallways while civilians from 1,000 worlds huddled in designated safety zones. On the main display screens, the strange human ship hung in space, surrounded by a shimmer of energy that none of their sensors could penetrate. Commander Pack of the Council Defense Fleet gripped the arms of his command chair. His scaled skin shifted colors rapidly, showing his stress as he watched the thunder through his ship's view screen. "What do you mean you can't scan it?" he demanded. His science officer waved all 6 arms in frustration. "Sir, it's like the ship isn't even there. Our scans just slide off, and those energy readings, they're still climbing." The Thunder's fusion drive continued its normal cooling cycle, venting more plasma in brilliant streams of light. To the Council ships, each burst looked like another weapon powering up. Their crews had never seen a ship that could carry so much energy in such a small frame. Aboard the Thunder, Admiral Gray watched the alien ships dart around his vessel like nervous birds. "Status of the translator?" he asked, keeping his voice steady despite the tense situation. "Sir, we're making progress," his communications officer reported. "The computer says their languages follow similar mathematical patterns to ones we know. We should have partial translation in 5 minutes." Gray nodded, then turned to his tactical officer. "Keep those shields up, but make sure every weapon stays powered down. We don't want to make this situation worse." A young ensign spoke up from his station. "Sir, the distress beacon we followed, it's changed position again. Almost like it's being moved on purpose," Gray finished, his eyes narrowing. "A trap then. But set by whom? And why?" Outside, more Council ships arrived every minute. Their designs were strange to human eyes. Some looked like crystal sculptures, others like giant sea creatures made of metal. All of them kept their distance from the Thunder, forming an ever wider circle around the human vessel. In the Council's emergency chamber, the representatives argued loudly. The military representative, a tall beam made of shifting smoke contained in a metal frame, pointed at the main screen. "Look at its size. A ship that small shouldn't have power readings that high. It must be some kind of planet-killer weapon." The science representative, whose body was mostly brain matter floating in a clear tank, bubbled in disagreement. "But why would they come alone? One ship, no matter how powerful, couldn't hope to conquer Council space. Unless," the strategic representative said slowly, his insectoid mandibles clicking, "this is just a test, to see how we react. There could be more ships waiting to jump in." On the Thunder's bridge, the translator finally crackled to life. Strange alien words became broken, but understandable English. Gray leaned forward as the first message came through. "Unknown vessel, you have entered Council space without authorization. Power down your weapons immediately, or we will be forced to take defensive action." Gray pressed the comm button on his chair. "This is Admiral Gray of the HMS Thunder. We're not powering weapons. Our drive system is just cooling down. We followed a distress beacon to this location. We come in peace." The Council ship's commanders shared confused looks as they received the message. A ship with that much power, claiming to come in peace. It had to be a trick. Their own vessels needed massive engines just to move through space. The idea that all that energy was just from a drive system seemed impossible. But even as they debated what to do, sensors picked up new signals. From behind a nearby moon, 6 sleek ships appeared. They were clearly armed, clearly hostile, and clearly not Council designs. The trap was sprung, but not by the humans. The leader of the attacking ships broadcast on all frequencies. The bait worked perfectly. Now we have both Council ships and this strange new vessel right where we want them. Gray's tactical officer straightened in his seat. "Sir, those new ships are charging weapons. Real weapons this time. The Admiral's expression hardened as he watched the enemy ships approach. He had wanted to avoid fighting, to make peaceful first contact. But now it seemed that fate had other plans. Around his ship, the Council vessels scrambled to battle positions, about to witness firsthand what a human warship could really do. News of the strange human ship spread through Council space like wildfire. On 1,000 worlds, alien beings watched their information feeds with growing fear. The images showed the Thunder floating in space, surrounded by the mysterious energy field that blocked all scans. Now, with 6 hostile ships approaching, the situation was about to explode. In the Council chamber, the emergency response team gathered around a holographic display of the developing crisis. The strategic representative's antennae twitched nervously. We have 3 possible hostile forces here: the human ship, these new attackers, and the ones who planted the fake distress beacon. Or they could all be working together, another representative suggested, their bioluminescent patches flashing with worry. On the Council station's main command deck, Officer Reed watched his sensors with all 4 eyes wide open. The 6 attacking ships were moving into attack formation, their weapons fully charged. The Council's defense fleet was caught in the middle, unsure which direction the real threat would come from. Aboard the Thunder, Admiral Gray made his decision. Open a channel to all ships, both Council and attackers. Let's see if we can stop this before it starts. His communications officer worked quickly, and soon Gray's voice boomed across all frequencies. This is Admiral Gray of the HMS Thunder. To the attacking ships, power down your weapons and withdraw. To the Council ships, we are not your enemy. Let us help you deal with these pirates. The leader of the attacking ships laughed, the sound harsh through the translator. The human thinks it can give orders. Our ships carry enough firepower to crack that station's hull. Stand down, or we'll show you what real weapons look like. Gray turned to his tactical officer. Analysis. Sir, their ships are armed, but the tech level seems lower than the Council vessels. No sign of shield technology like ours. They're relying on numbers and surprise. In the Council chamber, panic was spreading. Some representatives were already calling for complete evacuation of the station. Others demanded they surrender to protect civilian lives. A few suggested giving up the human ship to save themselves. But in the middle of the chaos, a young Council member named Bright stepped forward. Unlike the others, his species had evolved to process information incredibly fast, and he had been studying the situation carefully. Look at the human ship's design, he said, pointing at the display. Those hidden weapon ports, the stealth plating, the advanced shields. This is a warship built by people who understand real combat. And they're offering to help us. Commander Pack, still in command of the nearest Council vessel, heard Bright's words through the station's comm system. He looked at his own tactical display, noting how the Thunder had subtly moved to protect the station's most vulnerable points. These humans might be strange, but they clearly knew what they were doing. The pirate leader grew impatient. Time's up. Fire all weapons. Energy beams lanced out from the 6 attacking ships, aimed at both the Thunder and the Council vessels. But before anyone could react, the human ship's response changed everything. The Thunder's hull seemed to come alive. Panels slid open with impossible speed, revealing rows of point defense turrets. Tiny flashes of light sparked from each one, filling space with a web of intercepting fire. Every single enemy shot was blocked or deflected, none getting close to either the human ship or the Council vessels. Impossible, the pirate leader shouted. No ship that small can have that many defensive systems. Gray allowed himself a small smile. That was a warning. Power down now, or we'll show you what human weapons can really do. We've had centuries of practice at this sort of thing. The Council representatives watched in stunned silence. The human ship had reacted faster than any vessel they had ever seen, showing defensive capabilities that seemed to break the laws of physics. And yet they had only defended, not attacked. Commander Pack made his decision. He opened a channel to the Thunder. Admiral Gray, This is Commander Pack of the Council Defense Force. We accept your offer of assistance. How should we proceed? The pirate ships began to spread out, preparing for another attack. But now they faced a combined force. The Council's ships moving to support the Thunder's position. The real battle was about to begin, and the galaxy was about to learn exactly what humanity could do. The 6 pirate ships spread out in a classic attack formation, their weapons charging for another volley. On the Council station, thousands watched through viewing screens as the human warship moved to face the threat. The Thunder's sleek hull gleamed under the light of distant stars, its point defense systems still humming from the last exchange. Admiral Gray studied the tactical display, noting how the pirates positioned themselves. "Classic mistake," he muttered. "They're trying to surround us, but they're spreading their forces too thin." "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "Council ships are asking where they should position themselves." Gray nodded. "Tell them to form up behind us. Their ships are bigger. They can provide cover for the station while we handle the main threat." He turned to his weapons officer. "Power up the main guns. Let's show them why you don't pick fights with human warships." The Thunder's hull shifted again, but this time it wasn't just defensive systems. Hidden panels along the ship's spine opened smoothly, revealing what looked like silver mirrors. The Council observers were confused. These didn't look like any weapons they knew. The pirate leader laughed over the comm system. "That's your great weapon. Mirrors. We have 6 ships to your 1. "Actually," Gray replied calmly, "you now have 5 ships. Look behind you." One of the pirate vessels had vanished completely, replaced by floating debris. No one had seen the Thunder fire. No energy beam, no projectile, nothing. The ship was simply gone. "Quantum lance successful, sir," the weapons officer reported. "Ready for another shot." The pirates fired in panic, their energy weapons lighting up space. But the Thunder was already moving, its engines pushing it through maneuvers that should have been impossible for a ship its size. Each blast from the pirates missed by meters, while the Thunder's point defense systems swatted away the few shots that came close. Commander Pack watched in amazement from his council ship. How are they moving like that? The G-forces should be tearing their ship apart. The Thunder spun on its axis, bringing another quantum lance to bear. A second pirate ship disappeared, its atoms scattered across space. The remaining pirates began to break formation, their confidence shattered by weapons they couldn't even see coming. "Sir," the Thunder's sensor officer called out, 3 more ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Pirate reinforcements. But Gray smiled. "No, look at their engine signatures. Those are the same ships trying to loop around behind us. Old trick. Jump out and back in to confuse sensors. Target their exit points." Before the pirates could complete their maneuver, the Thunder's quantum lances fired again. 2 more ships vanished. The remaining pirates fired wildly, their shots going everywhere except where they aimed. The Council ships had never seen combat like this. The human vessel moved like a dancer, each motion precise and planned. It never wasted energy, never took unnecessary risks. This wasn't just advanced technology. This was centuries of combat experience and action. Last warning. Gray broadcast to the remaining pirates. "Surrender now. We can disable your ships without destroying them, but only if you power down immediately." The pirate leader's voice shook as he responded. How did you know where we would appear? Nobody can predict jump points that accurately." "We've been fighting wars in space longer than you think," Gray replied. "Now about that surrender." The remaining pirate ships finally powered down their weapons. The battle was over almost as quickly as it had begun. On the Council station, the representatives stood in stunned silence. They had expected brute force from the humans, but instead they had witnessed something else entirely: precision, efficiency, and complete mastery of space combat. Commander Pack opened a channel to the Thunder. "Admiral Gray, I think we owe you an apology. We assumed you were a threat because of your ship's power. We never imagined." That we'd use that power to protect instead of destroy. Gray finished for him. Humanity learned a long time ago that having powerful weapons isn't enough. It's how you choose to use them that matters. As Council security ships moved in to arrest the surrendered pirates, the representatives began to understand. They had feared humanity's warlike nature, but perhaps that very nature was exactly what the peaceful Council needed. Protectors who understood conflict well enough to prevent it. The Council Station's main meeting chamber had never been so quiet. Representatives from hundreds of species sat watching as Admiral Gray's hologram stood in the center of the room. The battle debris was still being cleared outside, while the captured pirate ships sat powerless under heavy guard. Bright, the young council member who had first recognized the Thunder's true nature, stepped forward. His quick processing mind had been analyzing every detail of the battle. "Admiral, your ship's capabilities go against everything we thought we knew about space combat. How is this possible?" Gray's hologram smiled slightly. "On Earth, our homeworld, we have a saying. Necessity is the mother of invention. Every technology you saw today was born from our need to survive." The science representative's brain matter swirled with interest in its clear tank. "But our records show that most species discover faster than light travel before developing such weapons. You seem to have done everything backwards." "We didn't have a choice," Gray explained. "Earth's history is full of conflict. Different nations, different ideologies, different beliefs. We had to develop weapons and defenses just to protect ourselves from each other. When we finally reached for the stars, we took those lessons with us." The council chamber erupted in murmurs. The idea of achieving space travel while still fighting among themselves seemed impossible to most species. The military representative's smoke form swirled with agitation. "You mean your species wasn't united when you reached space?" "No," Gray answered honestly. "And in many ways, that was our strength. Competition drove innovation. Conflict taught us strategy. The need to prevent wars made us understand them better than anyone who'd never fought one." On the Thunder's bridge, the crew watched through cameras as their admiral spoke to the council. The ship's quantum shields had been powered down, a gesture of trust that hadn't gone unnoticed by the aliens. Back in the chamber, Bright asked the question everyone was thinking. "Those weapons you used, the ones we couldn't even see." "Quantum lances," Gray nodded. "They don't fire energy or projectiles. They temporarily remove a small area of space from our universe. Anything in that space simply ceases to exist. We developed them to defend our colonies from asteroids, but they proved effective in combat too." The council representatives looked at each other in shock. Humanity had taken quantum physics, something they used for communication and research, and turned it into a weapon. But they had also shown incredible restraint in its use. Commander Pack, now standing in the chamber, spoke up. "During the battle, you could have destroyed all the pirate ships instantly. Why didn't you?" Gray's expression grew serious. "Because a weapon is only as good as the judgment of the person using it. We've learned that lesson the hard way. Power without control, without restraint, is worse than no power at all." Bright's species could process information faster than any other in the council, and he had been putting the pieces together. "That's why your ship is so small compared to ours. You don't build things bigger, you build them better." "Exactly," Gray agreed. "The Thunder carries more firepower than a ship 10 times its size, but that's not what makes it effective. It's the crew's training, the combat experience built into every system, the lessons learned from centuries of both fighting and preventing wars." The strategic representative's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "So when you followed that distress beacon, we knew it might be a trap," Gray finished. "Humans have been using similar tricks against each other for thousands of years. But we came anyway, because that's another lesson we've learned. Sometimes you have to risk walking into a trap to help someone who might really need it." The council chamber was silent again, but this time it was different. The fear from earlier was gone, replaced by something new: respect, and maybe a little bit of hope. A small light started blinking on Gray's command pad. His tactical officer's voice came through clearly. "Sir, we're picking up more ships entering the system. A lot more. And they're not Council designs." The human admiral looked at the Council representatives. "Looks like we might get another chance to show you how humanity handles itself in a crisis. That is, if you're willing to trust us." The Council members looked at each other. They had just witnessed what one human ship could do, and now, for the first time in centuries, they were actually looking forward to seeing more. The new ships appeared on every sensor screen across the Council station. 30 vessels of unknown design dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their weapons already hot. They were larger than the pirate ships from before, with hulls covered in black armor that absorbed light. "Those are Ravager ships," Commander Pack announced, his scales turning pale. "They're the ones who planted the fake distress beacon. The pirates were just their first wave, meant to test our defenses." Admiral Gray studied the tactical display in the Council chamber, his hologram flickering slightly as more data came in. "They're using a spiral attack formation. Classic overwhelming force strategy. They think their numbers will overwhelm us." The Council's military representative swirled anxiously in his containment field. "Our defense fleet only has 12 ships in position. Even with your vessel's capabilities, we're outnumbered almost 3-1. Gray's expression didn't change. "Numbers don't win battles. Position, timing, and coordination do." "Commander Pack, would you be willing to try something that might seem crazy to your crew?" Pack's scales shifted to a determined blue color. "After what we just saw your ship do, we're ready to try anything." The Ravager ships were closing fast, their black hulls making them look like holes in space. Their leader broadcast on all frequencies. "Council Station, your defenses are nothing against our fleet. Surrender now, and we may spare your civilian population." But Gray was already moving pieces on the tactical display. "Commander Pack, position your ships in this formation. It'll look like we're leaving gaps in our defense, but we're actually setting up a trap." The Council ships moved quickly, forming what seemed like a random pattern around the station. The Thunder took up position at the front, its quantum shields humming back to life. To the Ravagers, it looked like the defenders had no idea what they were doing. "Final warning," the Ravager leader transmitted. "Our ships carry enough firepower to reduce your station to atoms." Gray's response was calm. "You know what your mistake was. You watched us fight the pirates, but you didn't understand what you were seeing. We didn't win because of our weapons. We won because humans have been outsmarting opponents for our entire history." The Ravager fleet opened fire, thousands of energy beams streaking toward the station. But Gray had been counting on this. "Now," he ordered. The Thunder's quantum shield suddenly expanded, creating a massive energy field. The Council ships, positioned exactly right, activated their own shields. The energy connected between them, forming a web of defensive screens that caught every single Ravager shot. "Impossible," the Ravager leader shouted. "No shield network can form that quickly." "It can when you plan it properly," Gray replied. "Commander Pack, Phase 2. The Council ships began to move in perfect coordination with the Thunder. Each vessel took up positions they had never tried before, but that Gray had quickly taught them. The Ravager fleet's formation started to break apart as they tried to adapt. "You see," Gray continued, his voice carrying to every ship in the battle, "humans learned something important from all our wars. The most powerful weapon isn't a gun or a bomb or even a quantum lance. It's the ability to work together, to adapt, to outsmart your enemy." The Thunder's quantum lances fired in sequence, perfectly timed with gaps in the Council ships' movements. 5 Ravager vessels disappeared instantly. The Council fleet, following Gray's plan, herded the enemy ships into killing zones with their larger vessels. "Sir," Gray's tactical officer reported through the command link, "they're trying to regroup for another attack run." "No," Gray corrected, "they're trying to retreat. See how their engines are powering up. They're going to run." "Commander Pack, ready for Phase 3. The Council ships moved again, this time forming a barrier that cut off the Ravagers' escape route. Caught between the Thunder's quantum lances and the Council's concentrated fire, the black ships began surrendering one by one. In the Council chamber, the representatives watched in awe. The human ship wasn't just fighting, it was conducting an orchestra of battle, turning their defensive fleet into a coordinated force that fought well above its weight. The Ravager leader's final transmission was filled with disbelief. How? How did one human ship change everything? Gray's answer was simple. Because we didn't come here to fight alone. We came here to show you what's possible when different species work together. And I think we've made our point. 3 days after the battle, the Council station had transformed. Where there was once fear of the human ship, now there was excitement. Alien crews worked alongside Thunder's engineers, learning about human technology while sharing their own knowledge. The captured Ravager ships sat powerless in holding docks, their black hulls being studied by joint research teams. Admiral Gray stood at a window in the station's main observation deck, watching as repair crews fixed the minor damage from the battle. Behind him, Council members gathered for what would be a historic meeting. To think, Bright said, standing next to Gray, just 4 days ago, we thought your ship was here to destroy us. Now everything has changed. The science representative's tank bubbled with enthusiasm. The quantum lens technology alone will revolutionize our understanding of spacetime. But it's not just the weapons. Your shield harmonics, your drive systems, even your computer interfaces are all so different from ours. Different isn't always better, Gray responded, turning to face the gathering. Your ships can do plenty of things ours can't. Your medical technology is far ahead of ours, and your faster-than-light drives are more efficient. Commander Pack, newly promoted after the battle, stepped forward. His scales now showed the deep green of confidence. But it's not really about the technology, is it? What really matters is what you taught us about working together, about turning our differences into strengths. The Council chamber had been rearranged. Where there were once separate sections for different species, now representatives sat mixed together, sharing ideas and plans. The military representative's smoke form had taken on a bright, hopeful color. We've received word from Earth, Gray announced. They're sending a diplomatic team. But more importantly, they're sending engineers, teachers, and cultural experts. We want to learn from you as much as you want to learn from us. The strategic representative's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. And what about defense? The Ravagers won't be the last threat we face. That's why Earth is also sending more ships. Gray smiled. Not to take over your defense forces, but to train alongside them, to show them what we know, and to learn what they can teach us. Officer Reed, who had first detected the Thunder's arrival, was now working at a new combined operations center. His 4 eyes watched as human and Council ships practiced the formations that had won the battle. The Thunder led the exercises, but now its crew included Council species learning about human combat techniques. We were wrong about humans, the Council's high speaker announced, their crystalline form catching the light. We saw your weapons and assumed you were dangerous. We saw your warship and thought you wanted war. But you showed us that understanding combat doesn't mean loving it. It means knowing how to prevent it, and how to end it quickly when it can't be prevented. Gray nodded. On Earth, we have another saying. If you want peace, prepare for war. But preparation doesn't just mean building weapons. It means building understanding, creating allies, and knowing when to fight and when to talk. Through the window, they could see the Thunder docked at the station. Its hull had been repainted with both human and Council markings, symbolizing its new role as a bridge between their civilizations. Work crews were already adapting the station's docking bays to handle more human ships. The galaxy is bigger than any of us knew, Gray continued. There are more threats out there, but also more opportunities. Humanity is ready to join the Council, not as conquerors or warriors, but as protectors. We'll teach you what we know about defense, and you'll teach us what you know about peace. Bright's quick processing mind had already calculated the possibilities. With human tactical experience and Council resources combined, we could create the most effective peacekeeping force the galaxy has ever seen. The High Speaker raised their crystalline arms. Then let it be recorded. From this day forward, humanity is not just welcomed into the Council. They are entrusted as our defenders, our teachers in the ways of protecting peace through strength and wisdom. As the Council chamber erupted in approval, Gray looked back at the thunder. Just days ago, its arrival had sent aliens into a frenzy of fear. Now it represented something else. Hope for a future where different species work together, combining their strengths and overcoming their weaknesses. Humanity had found its place in the stars, not through conquest, but through protection and understanding.